Hey guys, it's Heather from Here She Grows, and today I'm digging dahlias for winter storage. Now, I've not had the best luck storing dahlias, so you're probably like, why is she showing me this? But my first couple attempts were huge failures. I killed a lot of dahlia tubers, but my final attempt, and I think the third time is the charm with this one, worked like a charm for sure. And I was able to overwinter these dahlias back here and then plant them out this spring and had a beautiful display. Now, I don't have many dahlias. I have a few, but they're ones that I really love. One is American Dawn, Florida Solar Flare, and White Onesta is what I'm digging today. So my first two attempts at storing dahlias, the first one was basically dig them, rinse them off, and throw them in a crate, throw them in the basement, and completely forget about them. My second attempt was dig, wash, put them in paper bags, throw them in a crate, and forget about them. And my third attempt was what I'm going to show you today and tomorrow. So I'm going to show you the first step here. And first, you let Mother Nature cue the dahlias to go dormant. So I let a frost hit them, and I forgot to cut them back, but totally fine. I'm going to cut them back now, and then we're going to dig, and I'll show you the next step. So this is American Dawn, and she's not looking all that great right now because the frost has hit it, but she was beautiful less than a month ago. But this is the natural process. You let a frost hit it, it gets really nice and crispy, and that signals the plant to send all of its energy that's left in the plant down into the tubers. So then you let that sit for about a week after that frost hit. Typically I would cut this back, and I would have done it sooner, but I just didn't get to it. But I'm going to cut it back now, and we're going to dig it. So you want to avoid digging too close to the stem, because what will happen is you'll pierce those tubers that are below, and you need those tubers. So I'm gonna dig kind of around the edges here where I think it might be. Sometimes you do pierce a few. It's okay, it happens. But I'm gonna dig this one out and show you what it looks like. So I got this out pretty clean. I didn't pierce any of these tubers, and this is really looking healthy. So when you dig this, you want to make sure you're kind of look it over and look for any mushy tubers, and those are things you want to cut out if you find that, because that will not store well, and that will breed more rot throughout the rest of the dahlias that you may be storing together. So this one's looking really good. So now I'm going to get after the rest of the dahlias, which isn't much, but it's the White Onesta and the Florida Solar Flare that I have left. So this looks pretty good. To avoid digging these out and pulling it out by the stems, because what could happen is they could be so set in the soil that you end up ripping off these tubers. So you want to lift as much of it as possible with your shovel before you pull it out of the earth. Okay, that one's done. Something's funny, I cannot believe it stayed on here, but I used permanent marker on my tubers last year, and I cannot believe it stayed on. You can see WO for White Onesta on these tubers. And I was wondering how that would do over the winter, but my marking stayed on my tubers. Sometimes it washes off, but this is White Onesta. The next step before I take them inside is just getting all the soil off the tubers. Now I'll toss them into a crate and take them inside. So all my tubers are dug and rinsed, and they're hanging out on the garage floor for the next day. So tomorrow I'll package them up. But word of caution, and I learned this the hard way from experience, don't let your dahlias sit directly on a concrete surface. Concrete's porous, it sucks moisture out of things. I made the mistake of going to store these, I left them on the garage floor for about 3 days, and the concrete had sucked some of the moisture out of them. So by the time I got around to storing them, the tubers were already starting to shrivel, so I was already starting off on a bad note for storage. So put something underneath them. I have an old picnic blanket that has a plastic backing on it, so I just let it sit on there and hang out there for the next day. And then tomorrow I'll get to the next step of actually packaging them up and storing them for the winter. All right, so we're on to part 2 of dahlia storage. And I am amazed that many of these tubers still retain the label that I put on them last winter before they went into storage. So I'm just gonna put, and this was just, it was blue permanent marker, so I don't know if the color blue has anything to do with it. I've looked all over the place and cannot find my blue marker, but I have a red one and a black one. But I know a lot of people that label, that doesn't work for them because it wears off. For whatever reason, it didn't wear off on mine. A lot of people will go the route of labeling with special tags. I'm not gonna do that. This permanent marker seems to work for me. I also include a tag on top of, just a marker on top of each bundle of tubers that I store with the corresponding initials for that tuber that it's resting on top of. So what I'm doing right now is just going through and checking each tuber and which one. So this is my American Dawn, and I just like to go through and inspect. I can probably cut these down a little more, take a few and then just out of the way. Just cut them a little shorter. They don't need all that growth on the top. And look for any tubers that might have been damaged when you were digging. So like this one here, get a little closer here and show you what I've got. So see how this one, I sliced through it. I'm gonna cut that out, as well as there was another one here too. This one too was damaged. So I'm gonna get rid of any of these damaged tubers and maybe cut back some of these roots. But damaged tubers need to go simply to prevent any type of rot from occurring within the entire bin that you're storing in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut them out. And there's one, where's that other one? And then this guy can come out too. Let's see, where is he? And this, yeah, this bunch looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go through each one. I also put the label. So this is American Dawn. So what I like to do is I'll put AD on the tubers. Now this blue D is from last year. I mislabeled this. I thought this was Diva, but it ended up being American Dawn. So I just put an A in front of it for American Dawn. So all my tubers get labeled that way. I put the label on several of the tubers, so if anything wears off, I can hopefully find it elsewhere on the bunch. But I'm gonna go through and clean them all up, and then just inspect them very closely, and then we'll move on to the next step. Oh, I see somewhere that I can cut out of here. Yeah, definitely. Can take this guy out. Let's see. Okay, they all look pretty good. So now we'll move on to the next step, which is about the messiest part of this job, which is not that big of a deal actually. So I like to use these, I guess they're like large milk crates. I picked them up at a local garden center. They just gave them to me. I didn't have to pay anything for them. You might have to pay a few bucks, but I only need a few crates because I don't have a lot of dahlias. Then pick up a box of the large lawn or leaf bags. This is a 39-gallon leaf bag, so just a garbage bag. And I put it inside the crate. And then what's worked for me is horse bedding or animal bedding. And this is just, it's probably the messiest part of this whole procedure. These are just pine shavings. And this whole bag, or cube, or whatever you call it, was $4.99 at Farm and Fleet. So this will last me many years too, because I will not use all of this. So all you're going to do is, let's see, get it open first. And you're gonna layer the bottom of your bag with this bedding. And it's gonna get all over you, so be prepared for that. But you're gonna layer it in. Kind of cover the whole bottom of the bag so that your tubers have a really nice bed to nestle into. It's very lightweight too, and this worked great last year. So that's why I'm showing it to you again, showing it to you this year. I like to try things out before I show them to you because I don't want to just wing it and tell you that it works if I don't know for certain that it does. And this did most definitely work for me. And all right, so I got this in there, and I am going to take a little bit more. That looks pretty good. So I'm gonna start off with American Dawn. I'm not gonna divide any of my tubers yet. I'll do that in the springtime. Honestly, I just don't feel like doing it. But this is a large clump. So what you wanna do is space them, distance them away from each other so that they're not touching, just in case they do have any disease. I mean, you don't wanna really promote that. So I'm gonna cut some of these stems off a little bit too. They're a little too long. Okay, that looks good. So that's American Dawn. And then I put the corresponding tag in with it, near it, so I know what I have. Let's see, I think I'll put in, I have one Kelsey Annie Joy. I could trim this up a little bit more too. And you want to leave plenty of excess, you know, enough plastic so you can cover the top of it too and seal it. But let me put the tag in with it so I know what I have on that one. And then you're just gonna cover it. I probably could get a little more in there, but I don't wanna crowd them out too much because I wanna make sure that if any of them does have an issue, it's not gonna pass to the other ones so easily. So I'm just gonna pack this in. Now, thing to remember too, I mean, ideally you want a cool space to store these, and I wouldn't say my basement is that cool, but to store them in the garage, they would simply die. And I did try that one year, actually. I think I forgot to mention that. I did store them in the garage the very first time I did this, and that's how I discovered that my garage just got way too cold, even though I put them against the wall in a crate like this, against the wall. That was, our garage is an attached garage. I thought it would be warmer against the wall than it is part of the house. So it didn't work, they all froze. So that didn't work. So I realized that they had to go, the only other place I could put them is in my basement. My basement gets between 60 and 62 degrees, so it's not really that cold, but they do stay, they stayed nice and healthy last year. So I'm gonna repeat it, the same process this year and hope for the best. So I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. The key is to prevent them from drying out or desiccating. And I'm going to show you what we'll do next. Okay, these guys are covered pretty well. Okay, now the next step, and probably the most important thing to prevent them from drying out, is to add a little bit of water. And you don't want to saturate your, there's a little gnat in here. You don't want to saturate your wood shavings, you just want to introduce some moisture. And it's something that you're going to repeat maybe once a month when you go in and check your tubers. You're going to want to go down wherever you're keeping your tubers, and inspect them each individually and look for any tubers that are softening, anything that's just not looking right, get rid of it. But you want to keep a little bit of moisture in the shavings to keep them nice and happy. So I just kind of sprinkle it in. Not too much. I mean, I just eyeball it. I don't know an exact amount to tell you, other than you don't want it to be like a swimming pool in there. You just want to make it so that there's some moisture in there. And then just kind of mix it up a little bit, get some humidity in there. And being stored in the house, these will dry. I mean, the furnace is on, so they will dry pretty fast. And I do have sometimes where the tubers will shrivel a little bit. Just go in and add maybe water bottle, spray it or whatever. Introduce some more water into it to kind of keep them from shriveling up even more. And even when they do shrivel a little bit, I find that you can still plant them in the garden or pot them up in springtime and they still will be just fine. It's just the ones that get really mushy and gross that probably are lost, but that's gonna happen. So I think this looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more water here. And I think that'll be good. So I'll just check these once a month. Head into the basement, inspect each one, and see how they're looking. And then just close it up. You don't want to seal it. I just like to kind of put it over that, and then I can stack the next crate on top of this one. And this batch of dahlias is ready to be stored, and hopefully it'll be out in the garden next year, and we can do it all over again. So I'm on to my second crate, and I don't know if you've been hearing the background noise. We're finally getting rain out here. We've been so dry, and it's been steady rainfall all day, so I'm glad for that, especially with the new trees and evergreens I put in this year. But I'm on to my second crate, and I wanted to show you too, I not only do this for my dahlias, but I have a few. My favorite canna is a Pretoria or Bengal Tiger canna. And I store my cannas this way too. And this is how I brought my cannas through last year, same procedure. So I'm just gonna nestle the cannas in this one. Put these in here, and then, yeah. So these are my cannas, and just set them in there, same as I did as the dahlias, and give them some space. I only have 4 of them. I mean, like I said, I have a small garden, so I don't need a ton of tubers for a small space garden like I have. So I am gonna just finish covering these guys. Cover them with sprinkling a little bit of water, and store them in the basement, and then just check them, like I said, every month. See how if they need a little bit of moisture, add a little bit of moisture to it, and just keep checking. You want to check them individually, so don't be afraid to get in there. It takes a little time, so maybe like on a Sunday when you've got a little time, get in there and take each one out, have a good look at it, and see where it's at, and if it needs anything removed, or if it needs the entire bunch of tubers needs to be removed. That way you can save as many as possible for next year. So I think this looks pretty good. And as you can see, this what is this, Guardian horse bedding? This stuff goes a long way. I mean, I've got a lot here, so it's compressed in this cube. But I have to find a way to store this too, because if not, if I keep it in the garage like this, I will have the mice in here for the winter time. And so I think I'll have to find some sort of a closed container for it. But anyway, that being said, I hope this helps you. I hope you are able to store your dahlias this way. It certainly has worked for me. Give it a try, and like I said, different things work for different people. So this is just what has worked for me after several trial and errors. And but finally, I was so relieved to have something that finally did work for me, because I killed a lot of dahlias because I didn't know how to store them properly. But now that I've found something that does, hopefully this will help you store your dahlias, and it saves some money, because dahlias are an investment. They can get very expensive, especially the really highly sought after ones. They are an investment. So if I don't have to spend that money next year, and I can just hold them over with a $5 bag of animal bedding and a couple garbage bags and a crate, I'm all in. So anyways, I hope this helps, guys. Happy gardening, and see you next time.